Oh no, what did I just hit? All right. Live chat, where are you? So, good morning. I am in my car yet again. Don't really know what's going to happen, how long this is going to take, what I'm going to do, but I'm at least here this morning. How is it going with everyone out there? It looks like S. Wilson channel is with us here this morning. How you doing today? I'm doing all right. Thanks for joining me. I don't know really what I'm going to talk about. I'll answer your questions if you happen to have any. You want to talk about film industry? You want to talk about, okay, finally bought an audio interface. What did you decide on? Now, audio interfaces can be, there's a lot of discount options and there's more expensive options. And there's really weird, really all it really is features. And it also depends on where you buy from. Because you could have the same audio interface made essentially by any one of a bunch of different companies, and they are going to sound and be the same. It's just that depending on the company, well, like one company could be, it could source, it could source easier from a and get parts easier because they're closer to China, for example, maybe, or they could be more difficult. Like for example, if a company that made audio interfaces made them, but their location where they built them was in Alaska, or let's make it even more drastic, Antarctica, that interface would have to be a lot more expensive. But that doesn't mean it's going to be any better than anyone that made it, using the same exact parts from someplace else. So I see that you decided to buy a Fluid Audio SRI2. I don't recognize that name. Now, typically I am, as you know, more interested in pro audio, so I may not know all the different. Sorry, I'm trying to press the right button to make sure that it stays up there. So I don't know all the different companies and all the different products they make, but is it a decent brand? You having any issues with it? 5 people are now here. Thank you for joining me this morning. Sorry, I'm just kind of hanging out this morning. I'm in my car, hanging out, waiting for my daughter to get out of a doctor's appointment. So I figured I might as well stream. SoundSpeeds was actually launched in, what was it, April of 2017. But I was establishing, kind of making sure that things are right before I decided it was going to be good to go live with the channel. So I worked on perfecting what I wanted it to sound like and look like, and then I did my first video. As a matter of fact, I did 3 videos, had them all ready and in the can because I knew once I started, it would be a long road ahead, and I'd probably want to make sure that I didn't just suddenly stop. But thanks for the like. It's made by a company that makes studio monitors, so it has good monitor connectivity. Well, that's good. I mean, it's I've still never heard of it, but that doesn't mean anything. There's a lot of brands out there that make really good products that I'm just not familiar with because it's not pro audio, and that's really my forte. I mean, I can look at specs and say, oh yeah, that's good spec, or say, it's nothing pro. But if it's working, here's the thing: if it has features you like, and it looks or sounds good, it's designed for musicians. Okay, well that makes sense then. If it makes studio monitors, how do you like the sound of it? Because really, that's what it's all about, is the sound. By the way, how does the audio sound in this stream this morning? I'm using a VLAV, and it's in front of me. It's right over there, and because it's like air conditioning time of year, I'm using the air conditioning, and I'm in the back seat of the car this morning as opposed to the front seat. So I'm hoping this actually works. Thank you very much for the second like. Let's see. It sounds pretty good, and stream also sounds good. That's good to know. Thanks. I mean, the microphone is right in front of me. Josh Green, welcome this morning, and thanks for giving me the feedback there. Is there anything in particular that people would like to talk about? If one of the things that's kind of funny that I've been asked to kind of do, thank you very much, Boom Sound. One of the things I've been asked to do is tell more stories. And, because the Mass Mics, in the Mass Mike series, I actually tell a lot of stories. And I don't really necessarily have the ability to just tell constant stories, nor do I think that would really be entertaining. I mean, I'll give you this heads up. I have something going on right now, and as soon as I get past it, awkward gear malfunctions on set. Let me get into that one in a second. But yeah, I will be going forth with the podcast I mentioned, the podcast idea. Once I get kind of past something that I'm working on, it's going to take a while. It's going to be time consuming, and once I get past it, then I'll look at doing the podcast thing ongoing. And part of that, I've been asked to kind of tell a story as part of that. It doesn't have to be a long one, doesn't have to be a short one. As a matter of fact, one of the things I'm also thinking about doing is asking people if you have a fun or silly story about gear, or about something related to sound, an interaction with a musician, an interaction with an actor, something funny that's related to sound or movies or something like that, to record it well and then submit it, and I might play it in the show. But I'm not going to be going forth with the podcast for a little while because I don't really want to start it and then stop it just because, of something else I have going on. Plus, time-consuming wise, I'm on a show, and I kind of need to get past the work schedule and the content creation thing, because a lot of my videos take a long time to make, and I'm already working 60-plus hours a week. And then, by the time I finish one of the episodes, it's another, 10 hours or so that I'm usually shooting at night. So it is very time consuming. So adding a podcast to that release schedule would be even more fun. Thanks for the third like. 8 people joined me this morning. Great to see you all. So any stories of awkward gear malfunctions on set? Got to think about that one. Obviously, some of the more fun stories were back, believe it or not, before, like now in the film industry, thanks for the fourth like. In the film industry, you roll, and then when you're done, you cut. And if there's a problem, you can just say, hey, we have a technical, we got to go, we got to get something done, and you go again. And that's usually the lingo we would use, is we'd say we had a technical. You don't specify what that technical glitch was, nor do you really say. Usually the ADs don't really care. They'll say, how long is it going to be to fix? Well, I'm trying to remember. I mean, some of the earlier days of recorders, what would make a really fun story to tell? I have to think about it. Welcome 10 people and fourth like. Oh, down to 8. Dropping off like flies. See, I don't want to hear this guy after all. Stories of awkward gear malfunctions on set. Man, let me think about that one. And obviously, if anyone has any questions or anything like that in the meantime, I'll be happy to answer. Ian, welcome. Good to see you. I'll go ahead and side note here for a second. Ian, we were going back and forth regarding the EM9900, and hopefully, after our exchanges this week, I never really heard back. Hopefully, the guy left you alone about the EM9900, and he kind of understood. I sent him the email, and he actually bounced into the SC400 when he was asking questions about that. If anyone's curious, I received a message on my review of the T-Bone EM9600 and 9900 asking me if it's a true shotgun. And the definition of true when related to a shotgun microphone or a microphone in general makes it kind of interesting, because apparently Neewer has created a microphone that has an interference tube, but instead of you plugging it in on this end and the interference tube is here, and you have the element here on the inside of the interference tube, apparently Neewer has created a microphone that ignores the entire interference tube and has the capsule at the end. I have no idea why they would do that. Why not just have the microphone be this long and put the capsule on the end and completely ignore the interference tube? Because really, that's all it does is look like a shotgun. Then it's complete garbage. So anyway, someone wrote me and asked if it's a true shotgun, and I didn't know what they meant. The only thing I could imagine was that it would have to be, yeah, Neewer is a very bizarre company. By no means a company that I want to ever review any of the products of. But it's like, okay, why would you create a microphone that way? And the fact that someone's asking me if it's a true shotgun basically tells me that one of two things. No, someone would never call their microphones professional. But if you have, I totally got derailed there. If you have to be a true microphone in the eyes of some people, it's got to have a full capsule, not an electret condenser capsule. And the difference there, part of it is yes, it is. The 9600 is definitely not a true shotgun mic. As a matter of fact, the 9600 is nothing I was not very fond of it at all. I hated to say. And yeah, people that buy, gaming stuff and stuff like that. But yeah, the 9900 was much better quality. The thing that puzzled me though, and Ian pointed this out in his video. So if you're not familiar with Ian Craig, he's in chat right now. Ian did a really good couple of videos where he basically just kind of shined a light on the inside of the EM9900, and it has a blockage like he just posted on one side. So it has the interference tube, which is round. And then normally there are vents in the side. Now, normally they leave those open. And the reason why is because if you can imagine hearing through a paper towel roll, it's not going to sound very good. But if you start to make little slits in it in the top and bottom, it's going to be allowing extra sound in. It's going to from the sides, and it's going to be a little more full sounding. Now, hearing through a paper towel roll is not the same as listening to a microphone. But imagine this analogy: you're standing at let's say you're on a sidewalk. You're let's use a better analogy. You're on this in a breezeway. And there's pillars all along the side of this long walkway that goes down about 200 feet in front of you. So the sidewalk goes, from one building to another, let's say, and there's all these pillars on the right. Those pillars, if you're standing right here looking down 200 feet, those pillars you're going to be looking to your right and left, and you can see all the world around you. But as you look out in front of you, it's going to start, those pillars that are on the sides are going to start blocking off more and more of what you see, down to the point where all the way down at the end, where you see the door that you're going to be walking into, all that is at that point is a bunch of columns and pillars overlapping over each other, and you only see what's out there in the real world next to you on the left and right. That's kind of the same idea behind a shotgun microphone, if you can imagine that. It is one where if you're looking and your eyes on the prize is down there at that door, and you don't really need to hear everything around you, but if I'm the element, anything around me close, I'm going to be pulling in a little bit, but I'm still very focused on what's down at the very end. I don't need to hear all the sounds way down there at the end, but I can hear a little bit of the sounds around me in order to kind of fill it out a little bit. But the farther away that sound comes in from, the more it's going to be blocked. And so only close to the element is where you're going to pick up more of the sides of it. And those vents do bring in sound and allows it to sound more natural. So that gives you an idea of kind of the design of a shotgun microphone. But the EM9900, surprisingly, if you can imagine those vents on the side, it blocks out on one side for some reason. Don't know why it does that. That to me sounds like a design failure. It sounds to me like perhaps they were going to be following more along the lines of the Neumann KMR 81i or 82i and only have vents on one side. Because really all you need is sound to come in from one side to be a decent sounding microphone if it's designed properly. But for whatever reason, if I were to guess, I'd say they probably tried sourcing it and it didn't end up working out very well for them because they weren't able to find one that an interference tube that only had vents on one side. That's just a hunch I have based on the design and based on what I've heard. And it's only partially open, as Ian is saying right now. And because of that, if you look at the frequency response graph, which is not a typical one, it doesn't just have a line that goes up and down. It has a full color, and where every color represents a 3 dB of loss. Every single little color, and it's not symmetrical. It's not symmetrical. And if I would have paid more attention to it, I would have probably been able to notice that. But yeah, the cardioid capsule should be at the end of the interference tube. Like the interference tube is long. You plug in the XLR over here, and then right at the end, usually there's a little vertical ring somewhere in there, and it's not all the way forward. It's sometimes back a little bit. That way it has a little bit of that rear lobe. Will also catch a little a vent or two. That's usually the way it is on at least some microphones. And then it has a big long interference tube out the front too. So that's usually there, so that way the front and rear lobe gets a little bit of, it's not so closed off, because if you close it off too much, it sounds really claustrophobic and it starts to really cut out a lot of frequencies. A microphone is the sum of all sounds coming into that microphone from every single angle in its polar pattern pickup. So if you can imagine, if I'm in my car right now and this car it's pointed at me, it's focused more on me, great. But any other sound it gets, that microphone is picking it up in a mono type manner. So every single angle that has sounds going into that microphone is going to turn into the signal. But at the same time, you got to keep in mind that microphones also are designed to pick up more in a certain environment, in a certain direction. And if that's the case, it's going to be focused more on one direction, but it's not going to completely cut out everything else. So airplanes flying overhead, you have noises of cars driving by. These are the kind of things that could affect me right now. Someone that decides to drive by in a big tractor trailer or something like that is going to be making a lot of noise behind me. So those are the kind of things that would be picked up into the microphone that I'm speaking in right now, which is the DDV Live. It's great for what it is and helping me out today with this live stream. So anyway, I'm getting a little behind in some of my questions here. Let me go ahead and answer some of them. Sorry about stories. I can't think of any stories regarding gear failure, but if I think of one, I'll tell it. Let's see. So you said, Ian, that the conversation with the dude went on a little bit longer. Feel free to email me about that if possible. I get emails from people and it usually goes on for a while back and forth until I answer their questions. Darkmoo, you're right. The EM 9600 is not a true shotgun. It was actually surprisingly disappointing, and I was kind of surprised. I don't really know what the purpose of that microphone is. It's designed for maybe choirs, but I don't know. Okay, so Alan wanted to. A budget mic is a strange place. Yes, it is. And in all honesty, S. Wilson channel, a budget microphone, like if it's from China, for example, that kind of budget. A budget microphone in that sense is just a microphone that is put together from a bunch of random pieces and parts. That's really all it takes to pass off as a microphone. And if you are sourcing something from China, China would basically make a bunch of microphones and a bunch of products. And they say, let's take this capsule from here. That's cheap. Let's take this and this, get this together and put this together, put this together. Does it work? Yay, it's a microphone. Let's get it out there on the market and try to sell it. There's no design. There's no engineering involved. A lot of the times it's a hodgepodge of just all kinds of components, and it doesn't really sound all that great. But they can very easily lie about specs and whatever else, because most people that buy some microphones that are only $8 or $10 are not going to be critics. And they're not going to, if something doesn't work out on it, they're not going to send it back, because it's going to cost more to send the thing back to China than it would be to go ahead and say, well, I guess they bought a piece of junk. So a lot of the times people don't even think about returning something like that. They just say, you know what, I bought it, I might as well use it. Okay, so let's move on. Excuse me. So it says, Alan, how do the Neumanns work as shotguns with one side blocked? Excuse me. It's all about the design and engineering. If you think about it, a microphone, as long as it picks up whatever it's pointing at, like a shotgun picks up whatever it's pointed at, it can, as long as it allows in some outside sound, it doesn't matter where that sound comes from. It doesn't matter if there's vents on the sides, on one side. It doesn't matter if it's on two sides or if it's on almost the entire microphone all the way around with little vents all the way, like maybe 6 slits all the way around. It doesn't matter. What does matter is how it picks up. The way that the microphone capsule is tuned to those sounds. The design of the interference tube, whether it's a thinner one, whether it's a thicker one, if the vents go farther around on one side, if they're thinner, if they go less around, it's just the design of that Neumann microphone. And in all honesty, with regards to long shotgun microphones, in a professional realm, there's really only 3 we ever really talk about. That's the Neumann KMR82i, and then you have the Sennheiser MKH 70 or 816 rather. Those are long shotgun microphones, and usually one that you would put in something like the long version. Like I know that the Neumann KMR82 will fit inside of the Rycote Super Shield if you need it, but you have to use a low profile connector on there in order to make sure that it goes properly inside. Because the thing about a Zeppelin, in order to keep wind out properly, a lot of people size them wrong. You don't want to have a Zeppelin this big and have a little bitty microphone in the middle. You want it to have even amounts of air around the entire microphone. So if this is the size of the Zeppelin, and you want the microphone to go basically up to where the curve starts to happen. And then on the back side of the microphone, you'd want it to basically, where the connector comes out the end, the same kind of thing to happen. The reason you do that is because as soon as you go vertical with it, you don't want that microphone to jam against any one of the sides. If the microphone is too short and it doesn't stick out here, then all of a sudden you have 6 or 8 inches in front of the microphone, and that's going to make the microphone farther away. If it is too close to the edge, boom, 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 it could hit the edge of the microphone, or the microphone could hit the edge of the Zeppelin, causing noise, and you don't want to have that happen. So a Super Shield does fit, but then the best kit really to get for it is the modular system by Rycote, the Windjammer series. There's more options. It's only like $50 or $100 more depending on the size you get. But in all honesty, the Super Shield does have a pistol grip that it comes with, and in all honesty, it seems to do a lot of good for a lot of people. Thanks for the 2-year anniversary. That's 2-year anniversary on the video release. My very first video on SoundSpeeds was released on June 26th of 2017. And it was called The One Thing You Know. What is it? The One Thing You Need to Know About... I forgot what I named that thing. It was something like One Thing You Need to Know About that will save your indie or something. I forgot. It's been such a long time ago. Hey, Podcastage, you know the mic company CAD, right? Hey, Podcastage? Do I look like Bandrew to you? No. I don't have his beanies. I don't have all of his guitars. Or do I have the ability to sing or play any guitars? The only thing I play is the CD player. Or the MP3 player, I guess I should say now. Or the whatever. Cardio at the bottom of the tube. And I've so sidetracked myself. I've gotten off that conversation now. Do you think the self noise on the Deity Connect is a sort of problem? Maybe it's also only the lavs. I would want to use them with the Oscar Soundtech TL40 or even the Sennheiser MKE2 Gold. I have talked to Deity about the self noise in it since I received the pre-release model. And the self noise, to me, I know you could process it out. I do know that. Lavs are not the quietest of microphones. The quietest lav I think in existence right now is the DPA the DPA 6060, which I believe has a self noise of 24 dB. So it means as long as the noise floor is above 24 dB, that noise will be below the noise floor of the room. Now, 24 dB is not that high, but you got to keep in mind it's all in sorry about that. It's in the gain staging. So if you have somebody speaking quietly, you need to give it a little bit more gain, then that means the noise floor comes up. And the 6060 is, the Connect system, for example, is designed at a certain price point. If you're a pro, I wouldn't suggest getting it. I mean, it's not that I don't like Deity. I just, in my conscious mind, I can't recommend it to a professional to use unless you want to use it for like a hop. I've said to people, if you want to use it as a hop to camera, that's fine. Use it as a hop to camera because your bag mixer is right there next to camera, and that way, if the guy turns and runs away, you want to hop to camera, great, do that, and have you be 20 feet behind him and chase him after that kind of thing. That would be the way that I would use the Deity Connect if I were a pro and I was going to use it at all. It's great if you're a producer of like indies. If you are a YouTuber, it's great. I mean, I could be using it today in this stream because right now, because it's 90 degrees out today, I have to sit in the back of my car with the air conditioning on. So sorry that you're hearing the air conditioning noise. As for the self noise though, that's something that they've worked really hard to digitally signal process out, DSP out, but you're still going to have it there. Noise is going to be reduced through more premium components and through higher amounts of engineering. And the price point of the Kinect is not in that price range. It's not going to match Lectrosonics, Zaxcom, Wizzycom, even probably Sennheiser in their higher end stuff. It's not going to match them just because it's not in that price point. It's not marketed that way. You got to keep in mind that even the UM100 Sennheiser transmitter and receiver, just one transmitter and receiver, is priced about, let's see, it's priced about a third more or 50% more than the cost of the Deity Connect system. It's almost about that much, but the Deity Connect system also gives you 2 transmitters and 2 receivers for the same price. So it's not really comparing apples to apples. Now, in my line of sight test, it did quite well. But as soon as you start jamming it up with other, things that get in your way, that's when I started to run into issues. And unfortunately, there's a lot of RF in the world. Microwave ovens operate in the 2.45 gigahertz realm, just like Bluetooth, just like some frequencies in your Wi-Fi. So if there's a lot of microwave ovens going, if there's a lot of Bluetooth phones that are just completely open and just searching for devices, that's a lot of Bluetooth spray. If there's a lot of Wi-Fi in the area, those things are going to compete with the Deity Connect. Now, they also say that there are 4 total, you should not use the Deity Connect with any more than 4 channels. Part of that's because not only is each transmitter a transmitter, it's also a receiver, and it receives back from the RX unit. And there's only a finite amount of frequencies that it can pull from because it's constantly scanning, what is it, 27, 28, something like that, total channel? I could be totally off on that. Don't quote me on that. But there's a lot of channels it can pull from. But let's just say, for our example here, there's 30 total channels that it can pull from while it's constantly scanning ahead. And if it's, for example, using 3 of those frequencies, what it basically does is it scans ahead and it keeps in mind 4 frequencies it can use. And it's constantly scanning ahead, and it will pull basically 5 additional frequencies, and it will say what are the best frequencies of that if I want to use those. If it uses one of those and replaces it, then it's going to be replacing those 4 with the best of the 5 that it's constantly scanning. When it does that, think about it. You're taking channels away that could be used by other channels as well. So if you have 2 transmitters and the 1 transmitter on the receiver, that's 3 total wireless channels. By the time you add on a second Deity Connect system, that is 6 total channels. If you're talking about a total of maybe 30 channels or that you could pull from, and there's probably more than that, so don't quote me on that, that's just an estimate. If you pull from more than that, then it could be an issue where you're looking at it and saying, you're gonna start to run into a finite number of potential hops that your wireless system can connect to. And if you talk to Deity, they could tell you that I'm a little off on that, but and I'm sure I'm not nailing every single aspect of it because it was a while back I did the Connect review. As for the Connect system, I think it serves a great purpose in our market. It really does do great for anybody that does indies. You want to do your own projects. It's even a very inexpensive wireless boom system. So if you do indies, if you do small projects for yourself, by all means, a Connect system is a wonderful thing. I love mine, and I use it And part of it is I'm not worried about the self noise a whole lot, and I have different microphones I can put on it, because the Connect lav is basically a lav that should sound decent enough for you to do. Now, granted, you can EQ it and make it sound like whatever you want to a certain degree. But, the quality components are very good for the price point. I mean, I don't think there's another company that makes a wireless microphone system in that price point that I would recommend more so than the Deity Connect. I really like it. As for wanting to use them on an Oscar Soundtech TL40 or the MKE2 Gold, give them a shot. Listen, check it out, because I don't honestly know. The biggest problem I had with my test of the Deity Connect is that I don't have any microphones or any lavs that are wired for TRS mini plug locking, or even TRS mini plug. I have the V lav, which is a Deity thing, and I have the Connect lavs. I don't. Everything I have is TA5. I have a DPA 6060. I have a Countryman B6. All those different, and I have like a 4060, 4061, a Slim, those kind of things from Deity, from DPA. But none of those have a pin out that I could put on the Connect system. So kind of limited there. Once I get an adapter or something like that will adapt from a micro dot connector to something else, then I can maybe do that. Don't know if I'm crazy, but 100% sure they released a mic once that was so terrible it packed up radio interface. What are you talking about? What are you referring to? Podcastage CAD? I'm not 100% sure what you mean there. Samuel Saunders, kiss you. Samuel, you're a dirty beast, obviously. Thank you for the recommendation. A couple months of AT30 2035. Yeah, it's a good one. It's actually the 3035 is personally I like it better than the AT 2035 simply because it is a flatter microphone. Need some advice. My mom is angry at my girlfriend because I can't help you out, PT. Let's see. What is one thing? It looks like I'm finally caught up. Woohoo! Let me see. Someone keeps texting me. No. I'm going to go ahead and silence this phone so it stops doing that. Sorry about that. What is one thing you hear on amateur audio podcasts that could be easily corrected or improved? What is something? Let me look at the exact wording there. What is one thing you hear on amateur audio like podcast? In all honesty, if you're talking about listening, just listening to audio podcasts, Ian is probably spot on there. It's probably usually that people do them in untreated rooms and they'll use the wrong microphone. You got to use, like, if the louder you are, the lower you can bring your level down. If you then swallow the microphone, it's like right here in your face, and you're yelling really loud, then you're going to drive that noise down, but your voice is going to carry and it's going to reflect off. Like if I was, right now, this car here, I bought it last year, and it's got, the same drop ceiling that cars have, but it's probably not getting a whole lot of reverb in here. Because it's designed to be. But people that sit at their computers and put a microphone on a stand, or use the Blue Yeti, which I want to hate the first person that recommended it. The Blue Yeti sits without a shock mount in a plastic stand or on a stand. I don't know if it's metal or plastic because I've never given them the time of day. And then they sit it down, usually on some sort of a hard wooden surface, and then they go about doing their podcast. It does not sound good in any kind of an environment, especially those that are hard surfaces all over the place. You have reflective surfaces, and I mean acoustically reflective surfaces all around you. It's going to reflect off, pick up things off the table. It's going to pick off the walls. Yes, thanks, David. Recording your car, and problems go away. Yes, exactly. I'm here for a reason. My daughter is behind me. Thanks, Julian. Geez, hold on a second. I got to stop this for a second. Julian, Your channel has blown up, man. I've actually predicted that in about 5 days, your channel will surpass mine in subscribers. It is growing like crazy. You get something like, what, 900 subs per month, and I'm like 300 or something like that. Your channel's growing like crazy, man. Congrats. It's really funny because I'm looking at him like, geez, Julian's channel is taking off. He releases one video like every 3 weeks. People are just loving his content. And that's what it is. Content is key, as they always say, right? And you put so much effort into your videos, man. It really does show. Really awesome, and congrats, man. You're going to be passing me very, very soon. It's quite impressive, man. Anyway, I'm getting totally sidetracked here. Had to geek out since I actually saw Jillian on here for a second. If you're talking about people that do video podcasts, let me address that one for a second. I'm speaking to you right now, not into a microphone that's anywhere close to my face. If I were, for example, wanting to really be annoying as a microphone, as a podcaster, and I wanted to be annoying, I would be like this. I'd have the microphone directly in front of my face, and I would be speaking into it like this. Obviously, it would sound better because the microphone would be right in front of my mouth. But that's the thing that drives me crazy, is improper microphone technique. You can have a microphone right in front of your face, and then you have this big honking pop filter in front of it. It's like, people. I did a video called Find Your Perfect Microphone Placement, or so. I'm so bad at the name of my own videos. It's something like Find Your Perfect Microphone Placement. And really what that's about is getting the microphone close enough while it does not sound better than your picture looks. Streamers and content creators on YouTube have to be careful, because it's not just about picture. I was just talking to Michael Wynn about this last night. If you want to watch a polished whatever tutorial, you'll watch a movie or a TV show, and you'll learn from those kind of things. But people go to YouTube to see either people like what I'm doing right now, answering questions, and to hear about my experiences, answer questions to a pro sound guy, that kind of thing. That's why people will go and watch my channel. They'll want to get that information. They'll want to find out what it's really like, because I don't have to make corporate happy. I don't have to have a network that I have to make happy by saying what they want me to, or by plugging certain products. I can plug whatever I want to. I can choose to trash whatever I want to. And believe me, I've trashed things in live streams before. I'm just thinking about one in particular. But it's one of those things where people will go to YouTube and watch content creators there because it offers something different than what they get in the outside world. More genuine, more real. And in my opinion, it drives me completely crazy when you're watching someone and it looks and sounds inconsistent. By that, here's what I mean. You may have great sounding audio because a microphone is right here in front of your face. But then that microphone is in front of your face, and you're not doing a live stream, or you're not doing like the Howard Stern radio show where it's a radio show and you happen to record it too, and then put that on the air because people want the visuals. It's not like that. You're doing a podcast live through YouTube or through whatever means you want to. Don't have the microphone jam in front of your face, because then it's just jamming it up there. People like to have visuals. And yes, I understand that I'm in the minority here. A lot of people don't have a problem with seeing a microphone in there. Bandrew at Podcastage, he loves having a microphone in front of his face. Me, I don't. I don't want to have a microphone clipped right here, have it sound all throaty, like this Vlog. If I put it right there, it would sound all throaty. It'd probably sound better, closer to my mouth, or I could put my hat turned around backwards. I could use a SoundSpeeds hat and put a microphone right here. I could do that too. But why bother? I'd rather just have a microphone in front of me and I don't have to think about it. Don't have to concentrate on it. It's a plant microphone. Here's me thinking film-like again. It's a plant microphone right in front of me, and it's going to sound fine. Okay. I hope your channel gets more subs as well. The amount of information you share is crazy. But you know what, Julian? What's really interesting is And Matt Price at Sound Rolling, he does the exact same thing. Matt's been doing this for like 5-6 years, and he's hit 5,000 subs. If you it's all in who you target as your audience. If I wanted to make a video, if I wanted to make a channel that does really goofy viral videos, I could have millions of subs. I know what I could do to probably get millions of subs. I don't need to do pranks. I don't need to whatever. I could simply, one of the things I even laughed and joked about was that I could easily, if you roast people, if you trash people, people love those videos. And I could very easily tear apart movies and just be a total jerk and do that. But why bother? I'm building a brand here. SoundSpeeds isn't just a YouTube channel, guys. This is a brand I'm creating. There are products I want to develop. There are things I have planned for the long run. I've made a plan a couple of years ago when I first started it. I said, once I hit this milestone at 1,000 subs, when I'm able to monetize the channel, I'll take it to the next step. When I hit this amount of subs, I'll take it to the next channel. When I hit this amount of whatever and I start making this amount of money, or when I start to hit certain things, I'm going to take it to the next level. I'm not doing this as a rush to try to quickly make things and to build a huge following just to do what PewDiePie does and totally change his entire game plan from playing games or whatever to something else. But at the same time, you got to keep in mind my audience, since I target myself more towards professional gear or towards professionals' ideas of that gear, a lot of what I say goes over people's heads, or people are like, this guy, I don't need to hear what he has to say. One of my biggest videos, probably my biggest video now, is the one where I say, don't buy an AT2035 until you watch this video. That right there, I go into a bunch of information. I compare it to the 3035 and why I think you should be getting that instead. But since I'm not my content is not created and targeted more towards a wider audience, it's more narrow-minded. I'm never going to have a big channel. I know that. Julian, one of the things you just roast speed. There you go. Secondary channel. It could very easily be. But your videos, Julian, they're targeted towards helping the everyday person realize what they should keep in mind as they move forward there with buying consumer gear. And because you do that and do it very well, Julian, if you've never checked out his channel, go check it out. He tears the gear apart. And I don't just mean, this is a terrible way to do it and this is whatever. He'll take the thing apart. He'll say, this is the actual shell of it. Here are the components on the inside. Here is what the preamp looks like. It's the same exact preamp chip that you find in this other thing. And then he'll tear it apart from there and really just dive in deep. And that's fine, because one of the things he does is he focuses more on consumer gears, and he presents it in a very clean manner that his audience understands. And even if you are not a professional, or you're not even a really knowledgeable hobbyist, he's putting the information out there for them in a very easy to understand manner that they can focus in on, and then he gives them additional information. They're like, wow, that's really cool. And so that's one of the reasons I think Julian is taken off, because he has a very clean way of explaining electronics to consumers, and he gives them content that they're interested in. A lot of the times, here's the thing that I've learned about professionals. Unless you're someone like Michael Wynn, who is a professional sound guy, who happens to also have a YouTube channel, it is very difficult for me to get my professional sound friends to actually watch YouTube. 2 reasons. Number 1 is they don't have the time. Number 2 is they'd rather go to a sound forum than watch a YouTube video, because they're always in the sound forums anyway. So I may do a video about something and say, check out the video, and then they might check it out and say, oh wow, that was really cool. A lot of the classes I teach, I will use SoundSpeed's material and videos in there to help explain, or to help visually with examples, or to go out into real world and show examples of something that I directly relate back to what our topic is of the day. part of the reason I do that is because SoundSpeeds is a great resource in many ways. It is targeted towards pros. It's targeted towards amateurs, hobbyists, those kind of things. And really, I basically follow the lead of bringing a professional audio sound guy's thought into the real world of sound, and what I think can kind of be interesting and make interesting content. Sometimes that's reviewing a product. Sometimes I'll be a company will say, hey, would you be willing to review this product? And sometimes I've said quite a few times I say no. As a matter of fact, I had a lady, I forgot her name now, but she said her name, it was a lady's name. She wrote me this big long thing of how she would like to collaborate with me. And then what it ended up being is that she said, I'd like to send you a free USB microphone. Well, people that know me know I hate USB microphones. I will not do a review of a USB microphone. Because of that, I said, no, I'm not going to. And instead of really giving her the time of day, knowing that she represents a company that basically is, I brought it up, it was like a $9 thing. I'm like, look, I'm not going to, I do a video a week. That's about all I can manage at this time. And if I do a video a week, I want to concentrate on something that my audience is actually going to appreciate more. The last video I did at the time of this review is the one where I took an instrument microphone and said, you know what? You can actually use an instrument microphone as long as it's not a specialty microphone. The thing about it is, if you have a microphone that's this long, that is a specialty microphone for some reason, especially if it is considered a kick drum microphone, or it's considered one for the cymbals. If it's a microphone that's designed for one particular thing, and you look at the specs on that, it's probably that it doesn't go below maybe 100, 150 hertz, and it may be designed for high end. You look at the frequency response curve, and it goes like this, and it goes woo, boost way up here, where it continues on over, and so it's designed for more high-pitched sounds. Or it might go in reverse. It might go choo like this and drop, because it's designed for more lower frequencies. But you got to think about that with regards to a microphone. If it is relatively flat and it simply is smoother during certain parts because it I don't want to say embellishes, but it's tuned more for a certain frequency range. As long as it's relatively flat, it shouldn't be that big of an issue. Now, a lot of the times, instrument microphones will have a bit more higher end, because a lot of microphones, in order to get up and cut through a mix, it needs to be able to pick up those higher frequencies a little bit more. Those higher frequencies are a little bit more difficult for you to ignore. It's what I refer to in my videos as the infomercial factor. And by that I mean that, have you ever watched an infomercial and you're flipping channels at night and TV sounds normal. You get to an infomercial and part of it is that they're extremely high energy and they're just, hey, watch me pour this water on the carpet and then I'm going to throw some powder on there too. And now all I do is I spray it with this and then I put down this and it comes instantly up as and it's like, okay, wow, that's pretty interesting. They used to catch you at a point where your brain is not able to turn it away. And then they use a little bit of science on you. They usually boost the higher pitch frequencies, like when I say infomercial factor, that's what I mean. They usually boost those higher pitch frequencies. So they'll have a presence boosted mic, and then they'll further boost that because higher pitch frequencies are more difficult for you to ignore and tune out. Your brain, despite the fact that your voice and your fundamental vocal frequencies that you speak in are anywhere, like for a male, it's anywhere between about 80 and about 225 hertz. And for a female, it's between about 100 hertz, maybe 120, and up to about 300. But between harmonics, overtones, because that's just the vibration of your throat. By the time you shape it with your mouth, and by the time it shapes and resonates through your head and everything else, you're able to shape those harmonics and overtones and get it to be 2,000 or 3,000 hertz, maybe 4,000. I think the highest pitched singer, the highest someone has ever sang is a female. I think the Guinness Book of World Records is that she was able to achieve through harmonics and overtones a frequency of something like 17,000 hertz, something like that. That's extremely loud. A lot of people, like I can't even really hear that well way up there. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because despite the fact that your voice is tuned for those lower frequencies, if you look at the A-weighted response curve, if you look at A weighting, yes, 17,000 from a human mouth, it was way up there through harmonics and overtones. But if you look at an A-weighting curve, that shows you approximately the way that sound sounds, and your ears are tuned for something below about 55 hertz. 55 dB, rather. And then if you talk about B weighting, it's usually between about 55 and 85 hertz, which would technically be in the real world. But the reason they don't use that is because A-weighted is usually, it's pretty close. And people use it just because it is easier. Most of the time people don't need to yell. And if you're in a quiet room, you don't have to speak up very loud. And if you don't have to speak up loud, then A-weighted works just fine for a normal volume. My volume right now on my voice is probably around 50 dB, maybe 55. That would be A-weighting. If I get louder and I'm speaking like I normally do, then I'm probably in B-weighted. But we don't really even need to go there because A-weighted is going to be fine for most of the time because you are a little bit farther away. Remember, every time you double your distance away from a noise source, it's 6 dB of loss. That's in a technically perfect world. I mean, if you are against a wall, you're not going to see that much attenuation because that sound is going to carry easier along the flat wall because it's not going to be reflected and dissipating in the air. It's going to be channeled more. So it may only drop 4 dB. And if I'm standing out in the middle of the ocean and it's calm and I stand up in the boat and I yell something out, 6 dB away will probably be about double the distance away. So 1 meter away, whatever my voice registers as on a SPL meter, you go 2 meters away and it's probably going to be 6 dB less because there's nothing there to stop it. I mean, maybe if the air is really thick or something like that, it could affect it a little bit, maybe a little tad bit, but not a whole lot. But for the most part, even though you are tuned to hear those frequencies, you can't ignore frequencies around 7 to 9K as easily. I mean, you can certainly ignore them, but think about this. Infomercials usually come on late at night when you're tired. And here, all of a sudden, comes a voice that is exactly in the frequency range that you hear the easiest. I mean, it's the higher end of that. Actually, it starts to drop a little bit over about 6K, really. But all of a sudden, this high-pitched sound, and it's even boosted extra high, it's designed for you to hear and focus in on. So an infomercial right there is designed for you to listen to it and stay focused on it. And because of that, it's very difficult to ignore it. Well, and that's the reason why I say the infomercial factor right there is one that's very, very difficult for you to ignore. So I totally forgot where I was going with this. Okay. David, how will I cover my weak chin if I don't have 10-foot pop filter in front of me? Higher angles. If, for example, see, this is my background into photographer coming out. If you raise your angle, you are taking away, you are emphasizing a different part of your face. So right now, my phone camera is right here. If that camera, right there, is even with my eyes, that means it is going to be focused here, and it is going to be falling off, slightly distorting above and below. And as I go too high or too below, now if I back off a little bit, it's going to be even more natural looking because the wider it is, the wider angle it is, the more distorted it is. You want to hide a feature like you said, your chin. Raise the camera angle and look slightly down on you. That means your chin is going to be smaller in the shot because it's farther away. There you go, a little trick for you. I won't go any more deeper than that. Video gets recommended to me all the time. That video, yeah. Thank you, Peter. And Peter, by the way, thanks for showing up here today. Peter is the wonderful genius behind the brand logo of SoundSpeeds. He reached out to me and said, I think your brand is a good one with the S's, but I think it could use a little tweaking. And when he he sent me a whole bunch of ideas presented in a very professional, amazing way. I looked at it, said, this is brilliant. I love this. And he worked with me on it. Now, I'm not the easiest person to work with because I don't play right. I say, well, I don't like that. I don't like that. That is not me. That is not me. And he was spot on. He was great in how he dealt with, he explained, it should be this. It should be this. That is, okay, we can do that. And he was great. Okay. Hey, Alan. Congrats. With regards to amateur audio, do you think a YouTube channel's audio can be too good? Too good? Audio too good? Obviously, if you have a sound channel, your audio needs to be spot on. I'm a VO talent, but I have a hockey channel. In my niche, good audio is uncommon. I shoot a lot of content in my studio. Could be that my audio is too clean compared to what people hear from other channels in my niche. I don't think your audio can be too good for a channel. The better it is, it's going to look better. Because if you have something that sounds really good, your overall product is going to look better. If it doesn't sound good, it's going to look amateurish. So if you happen to have a hockey YouTube channel, make it sound good. There's no such thing as sounding too good. Now, obviously, if you're going to use some crazy high-end expensive microphone and that's the voiceover microphone, and you use a lav, and you use a shotgun overhead, and you start mixing together all these things, and you go and spend $100,000 to get yourself, and you shoot every single hockey episode in a recording studio, that's kind of ridiculous. Go out on onto a hockey court or whatever else, and you have a lav mic on because you're doing some demonstrations, by all means. You happen to go out and you're doing a report, have yourself a good quality dynamic microphone. It's going to be great. But as for sounding too good on a channel that's not dedicated to sound, no, don't worry about that. Okay, so let's see. Imagine singing so high that old people can't hear you. That would be interesting. But, harmonics and overtones, they still have the lower representation of frequencies. It's just that it's got the loudest frequencies, the fundamentals are right here. And then the harmonics that are twice in frequency are a little lower. Then twice those frequencies are a little lower. Twice those are a little lower. By the time you get up to 17K, they're pretty low. They still are there, but it's got to at least hit a certain threshold for it to be recorded by the whatchamacallits. What am I trying to say here? By the Guinness Book of World Records people. Let's see. That's why you have a pile of magic potato cutters, Eldest. What did Eldest say? I'm tired as always. And super loud. I totally don't understand that potato cutters reference. Okay, so I guess I will, it's 1 o'clock, almost. Any other questions that anyone has or anything else you want to talk about? My daughter will, her doctor's office, doctor's visit is supposed to finish at 1. I doubt it will happen. Usually I will be here anywhere up to about an hour almost, maybe 45 minutes after the sessions, and then finally she's done and she wanders out. If you see someone walk through that little area here in a few minutes, that's probably her, and you'll see me abruptly in this live stream. Not like, say, oh, that's it, bye, click. It'll be more like, oh, she's here. Hey, honey, here I am in the back seat. It's almost 1900 there. Well, I guess that's because, yeah, you're in Europe. That makes sense. Okay, here's a fun story I'll tell you. Since someone asked me before about a story, I won't tell you the story about gear failure because I don't want to throw any certain mixers under the bus or anything like that, because us pros talk. I'll adjust that one real quick. Any thoughts on the Rode Wireless Go and the new Pico Mic wireless system? Not a one. Sorry, they're unless they send me something, I don't really give a lot of I don't want to say amateur audio stuff, but I usually concentrate more on pro audio stuff if I buy it. And a lot of the times people send me, thank you, Sir Lucky Dog. If I usually concentrate more on pro audio stuff or teaching something, a particular thing, or I'll review something if I'm sent it. But Rode didn't send me a wireless go, nor did what is that company, Pico Mic Wireless. So if I don't have something to play with and I can't put it through its test, then I don't really have a whole lot of experience with it. With the Deity Connect system, when I tested that one, I tested it, put it through its things, I put it through a range test. If you haven't watched that review, I took the transmitters and I put it through a stress test. Quite fun stress test, I might add. Which, by the way, wait until you see Destruction of the EV 664 Part 3. Man, that video is going to be fun. I've shot most of it, but I have some kind of surprising results, so it's going to be fun. But you know what? You know what, David? I don't actually wish all companies sent me products like Deity does. Deity, Andrews, he's a pro. The guy who basically is in charge of running Deity, he's a pro guy. And he designs products that are high quality, that are more prosumer, really, than they are designed for professionals. But pros do use Deity products sometimes. It depends on what the best thing is for the job. I've used the S-Mic 2 in circumstances with water and that kind of thing, because basically, as you saw in my review of the S-Mic 2, you can take water directly into the thing and it's still gonna, it's gonna shrug it off. It turns into a hydrophone. I could drop that thing down into the ocean and it would turn into a hydrophone, and I'd hear fish down there in his low-bar supercardioid pattern, down at the bottom of the ocean, no doubt. But Deity is also another thing to keep in mind about Deity is that they do, because the guy in charge is a pro, he does like my thoughts and opinions. So he'll ask me a lot of questions about products, and I'll say this, I'm like, that I'm not sure about that, or I'm not sure about that. Could it do this instead, or something like that? And I've been brutally honest with him before, and he appreciates that. He doesn't want me sugarcoating things and telling him, oh yeah, it's great, I love everything you do. He doesn't want that. He'd rather me be honest, and that's how the company grows and becomes better. And he does send me, an occasional email and say, what do you think about this? What do you think about First Look? What do you think about this on a particular product or something? And I'll say, ooh, interested. I'd like to hear more. Or he'll send me something, and he's sent me things before that I shake my head at and say, no, this isn't ready. I'm not going to give this any more attention. The very first Deity Connect system he sent me, I was like, geez, these lavs don't sound very good. And he said, yeah, we're redoing those. And then he came out with the version that everyone knows on the Connect system. And they sound a lot better than the originals do. I think Gerald Undone, if you look at his review, he reviewed one of these pre-release models. The first version that I got, he got that version, and he did his review of it. But it's not by any means a review that makes a whole lot of sense anymore, because it's very dated. It's a pre-release model. It's not a release model after the Connect was released, nor does it have the DSP signal processing. It doesn't have the VU meters fixed. It doesn't have the testing of the noise floor, nor does it recommend certain settings. I could have scooped a market if I wanted to and reviewed the Deity Connect's pre-release model and gotten it out there and then said, I'm not that happy with this and this and this, and I do like this and this and this. But why? If by the time a product arrives in my hand and I start to complain about it or say, this I don't like, this I don't like, they say, oh, no, what you have is a pre-release model, we've already fixed that. Then I'm like, I'm not going to do a review of it. I said, okay, fine, send me the real product and then I'll review it. And he did. And I know Curtis Judd and some other guys got their reviews out within the first couple of days of its release, but then the testing that I like to do on things is much more extensive. As a matter of fact, I was contacted by Zoom and asked if I would like to receive a loaner of the F6. Originally, I was very interested in the F6. I wanted to review it. I wanted to put it through some extensive tests. But after I started thinking about it, I said, you know what? Some of the tests I'd want to do with it, I cannot be responsible for a product and not damaging it in order to fully review it. When I'm sent a microphone, one of the things I'll do is I'll do my hands like this and I'll try to crush the grill. And if it feels too flimsy and I feel like I'm going to break it, then I'll say, okay, I might want to do my product test of it first, and then do that stress test of it at the very, very end. The very last thing I did on my Negative Connect review is I did the stress test where I took it outside and I threw the transmitter around. I started with a couple of drops. I then dragged it around. Then I tossed it up in the air. Then I really tossed it up in the air. But that was the very last test I did, because obviously if you're going to potentially destroy something, you want it to work for the actual review. I shouldn't start with that and then have this, janky looking thing just terrible the rest of the review and say, oh yeah, if it still worked, it would sound like this. So anyway, and I don't wish that companies like Rode or Pico Mic would start sending me all their stuff, because I don't have time to review it all. I'd rather pick and choose what I review, and like I did, for example, reach out to Rode, and originally, like, it was probably a month or two after they released the Rodecaster Pro, and I said to them, I have an idea. There's a market that you're missing out on. You need to if you target it toward this market, and if you send me one, I'll do a video and I will show that market exactly what they could do with it. Because if it's targeted towards podcasters, it's cutting out other markets. And I had an idea and I sent it to them. They never responded to my email. And then when I finally did get a response from them, they're like, oh yeah, we're not going to send them out to anyone. Well, just guess what? I'm not about to spend how much did that thing cost? $600, something like that, just to give them free advertising. I'm not going to do that. It's not something that is in my, it's not something that I can justify very easily. I'm not going to buy something just to give them free advertising. So that's the reason why I usually say, unless it's something I really, really love, like the USM, the Rycote USM, the Universal Shock Mount for any kind of microphone, basically. When I reviewed that, it was because I really love it. When I reviewed the EMC connectors, it's because I swore by them for years, and I reached out to, and I spoke to one of the engineers that's in charge of product development out there at Neutrik, and he agreed to send me some samples. And I said, well, I know what they sound like, but I would absolutely love to have them because I'll show them in the video. Because usually, as soon as I buy them, I say, oh, I'm going to put them on this, I'm going to put them on that, and I don't get them, I don't have them in my possession anymore. So it's great when I have, products that I can use and show and hold up. But if a company wants to send me something, great, yeah, I'll review it. But one of the things I always tell them is, you're not going to have any input in my review. It will be a fair and honest review. Like a couple years ago, Tonart, I think it was last year actually, Tonart sent me a microphone, which is their wireless thing. And I felt it was kind of a rite of passage, that my channel was starting to get a little bigger and I wanted to do a little more product reviews so I could show people the kind of reviews that I would do. And when I did, I agreed to do 2 mic reviews, but I said it should be something more like a shotgun mic, or it should be more like, and I gave them a couple of ideas. Then they sent me that headset mic for the second thing, and I said, you don't want me reviewing this, I don't like it at all. They said, no, we would like you to. For your second review, this is what we'd like you to do. I'm like, I'm not going to be very favorable, but I'm not going to say very nice things about it. You don't want me to review this. They responded to me and said, oh no, we would like reviews of this product online. Please do review it. You asked for it. And I released that video, which is called Avoid This Headset, and then I name it. I warned him. After that, he never responded to my emails again. I said, oh, by the way, here's the review. Never responded to my email. After the first one, where I say, it could be better, it could be worse, here are some faults, here are some things that it's good about. It was one of those things where it's kind of funny. They said, oh, very good, we appreciate that. But with the second one, when I'm like, where my review of it said, I don't think this microphone should exist, they didn't like that much at all. So anyway, let me move on here. Sounds like a video idea. Scuba diving with a mic. I do have some ideas about some underwater things. I need to get there. Penelope McPherson, congrats on Channelversary. Thank you. Podcast. I guess, is that what a super chat looks like? I've never seen one. If that was podcast, send me a super chat. Thank you so much. Keep up the amazing work. I I forgot that I had the money icon on these things. This shows that I've never ever given donations in live stream before. That was the first ever donation I've received on live stream. Thank you so much, man. And then it says $3.99. Banjo throws boxes. You throw actual products. Yep, that's a good way to put it. Banjo throws boxes. Yeah. Any sound advice focuses on quality products. One doesn't want to waste energy on flimsy gear. Basically, yeah. And at the same time, you know, if and a lot of the times I do have companies that reach out to me and say, you know, would you like to review this product? And I look at it and I click the link and I will say no. Just one word, no. I had a lady that got, and I started to tell the story and then I got sidetracked. I had a lady get very mad at me in an email about, geez, what was it? 2 months ago now, because she wrote this big long thing of how she really loves my channel. She loves what my take on things. She loves how I present and would love to collaborate with me and would love to send me a free microphone. And it was a USB microphone that I looked and shook my head at and I said, no, it was a complete waste of my time. USB microphones are, because I'm not going to give them a time of day. I know they serve a purpose and that's fine. But I'm not going to. Was it Comica? Comica had like 3 or 4 people send me emails like within the same 2 weeks. No, Fifine wasn't it, because I've talked with them in the past, and I did a review of their K6 and K8s together. I said, no, if I review the K6 and K8, I'm going to review them together. I'm not going to do them one at a time, because they wanted me to do them one at a time. I said, nope, if you want me to do them, I'll do them together as a K6 and K8 option, and I'll review those. But I'm not going to do them individually and give you 2 reviews for it. I'll do one, and they agreed. I can't remember if it's Comica or not, but anyway, she said she'd send me a microphone, and and I looked at the link, I looked at it, I said, no. I'm not gonna like that one at all. So basically, in the response, I just said the word no. Oh, she was not happy. She wrote me back and basically chewed me out. She was like, you know, you may not, you know, she's like, you know, my opinion of you has totally changed. I thought you would be a great person to work with, but now I realize I can't work with you. You know, if you didn't like my product, then I wish you could have said so. It's very unprofessional of you to be so short, or I forgot the way she worded it. It was like, it made her happy to write such a response and whatever else. And I just looked at it and I grinned and I said, wow, I got a live one. Because being that this was a Chinese company and she had a Chinese name, I was like, wow, this, you know, many women in China are, they still have it. They have a totally different standards for equality between males and females. So for her to be that direct with me tells me that she was a pretty feisty one, which I actually thought was pretty funny. The first thing went through my mind was, wow, that's pretty amazing. I was like, that's a response that is pretty amazing to come from a Chinese woman. I was very impressed by that response. Because, you know, me, I'm totally like, I love everybody. You know, I will just go up and I'll greet people, and I'm also one of those people that I make fun of myself so quick and easily. I will joke with everybody about, you know, wow, you want to trust me on that? Well, man, all right. Well, no, what you're smoking. I'll joke with people about that, you know, and I'll self-deprecating, not defecating. I forgot what the exact wording is, but whatever it is what I usually do a lot of, and I joke around with. But anyway, it is one of those things where I was like really impressed by that response. How much does a $9 USB microphone cost after trades and tariffs? I don't know, but in the link that she posted and sent me through Amazon, it was only like $9. So it tells me that in order for someone in China to make it so inexpensive, to make such an inexpensive microphone, that they can still make a product by sending it to you for free shipping from China, that tells me a lot. $9, including shipping from China, and they can still make money on that? Why do I want to give that microphone the time of day? I mean, obviously, I don't want to. It's not going to be anything that is going to appeal to me or give me any kind of interest or be interested in any way to me. So, anyway, yeah. And then someone corrects me, as Jason, self-deprecating. There's only a few things out there in the real world I know. My wife and kids will tell you that I'm a very goofy person just by nature. There are some things that I'm almost a savant about. One of them is sound, and if they want to, if I'm tired, for example, and they want to keep me awake, they just simply can ask me a question. Here's an interesting little fun story for you, real quick, since David, if you want to hear the way that thing sounds, just do a search for USB microphone and buy one of the cheapest ones. Anyway, Thursday, we were in the middle of, we did a 14-hour day, and it started getting late. It was like 1:30 in the morning. We were in our 13th hour at that point, and I was so tired because the night before I had been up late talking to my wife, and then I went upstairs and, like an idiot, I turn on my computer and I start working on sound speed stuff, and all of a sudden I start dozing at my computer. And after my neck gets nice and sore, I then go to bed, wake up, and only after a couple hours of sleep decide I'm going to drive into work and be tired all day. And then they decided to throw at us a 15-hour day. Well, in the 13th hour, I was really tired, and I started getting wobbly, and I'm holding the boom, and I sense my eyes doing this number. Not like in danger of dropping the boom on anyone or anything like that, but I'm feeling my eyes, feeling like they're wobbling. I just can't focus them as well. And when that started happening, I said, okay, the company I work for has a policy. If it goes too late, then they understand circadian rhythms. They understand how you start off the week and you're going to work at 7 a.m. and you wrap at 7:30 p.m. They understand that's a normal day in the film industry. But when they bring you in at 11 o'clock or noon, and then they work you until 3 in the morning, they understand that it's a 16-hour day, 15-hour day, and that gets very, very tiring. So what they did is they have a policy where they will either get you a hotel room that's nearby if you want that, which usually means you have to leave. You basically have to leave set. You have to figure out what the hotel is that you want to stay at, maybe look at an app or buy something like that. Then you have to drive to the hotel. Then you have to park your car. Then you have to get out, go inside, take a shower, go to bed. Then the next day you go to work. But now a lot of companies are now starting to do a policy with Uber or Lyft where they will reimburse you for the drive home and the following day to return to get your car. Well, Thursday night when I was wobbly, I was like, I think I'm going to take them up on this policy. I don't want to drive this tired, and because I had a very bad headache that was probably a migraine, let the truth be known, I did not think that if I napped in my car I would, number one, be able to get to sleep. Number two, I didn't think I would be able to sleep very well, and it probably would still not be rested. I'd be wanting to doze off behind the wheel. So I said, you know what? I think for the first time in my life I'm going to take up a company on this. Not on the hotel. I still haven't done that yet, unless I'm on a remote shoot. But I decided I was going to do the Uber. Well, being that I was picked up right outside the gates of the sound stages in the studio, I got to the edge of the studio. I was picked up by a woman that does a lot of extras work. So as I'm sure you can imagine, she was like, you work in the TV, or do you work there? What are you doing? What show are you working on? I just got through being I was on The Conjuring with my two sons like 2 weeks ago. We were extras, and then I was also on this show, and I did this one also, and I'm like, great. Well, I talk in my sleep. So as I'm trying to answer her questions and stuff, I'm like trying to focus, and I know I dozed a few times. I answered a few of her questions, and at one point I'm like talking to her, and I doze off, and then I all of a sudden kind of wake up, and I realize that I'm still in that Uber. And I heard the last sentence I said, which I don't remember now. And I'm like, I don't know what I just said. But whatever I just said, it made sense to her and she appreciated it. But I guess, I don't know what I said, but it didn't sound like it was on topic to anything. So at that point, I just kind of, I kind of said, well, I've gotten off topic here. And then I just said something said something sound or movie wise or something like that, and just kind of went quiet after that. Anyway, she chatted my ear off on the entire drive, and I dozed a few times. But the following day, which was yesterday, I was picked up, and the woman that picked me up was very nice. I mean, she started out, she was nice and chatty. She just, she greeted me and was like, "So I just got through moving from Jacksonville 2 weeks ago. So here I am in your city." I'm like, "Wow, that's awesome. What did you move up here for?" Well, she says, "I have a journalism degree and I want to put it to use." And I said, "What would you like to do?" And she said, "I really want to be an interviewer on the red carpet." I'm thinking to myself, those are usually celebrities or work for, they're very prestigious people in some sort of news organization, but that's fine. Okay, you can have dreams. And I said, "Anything else?" And she said, "Yeah, I like the idea of like interviewing people, maybe for TV or something like that." And I said, "So like reality or something like that?" And she's like, "Yeah, I mean, that would be fine, because I know that the red carpet events don't come along all the time. But so yeah." And I said, "So what you want to be is an ENG field producer." And she says, and this is after talking to her for like 10 minutes, and she's just happily talking about everything. She goes, "No, what I want to do is," and then she reiterates what she says. So I say, "Okay." And I decide, because I have not told her what I do for a living, and Uber doesn't tell you the business of where you're going. It just tells you the address once they pick you up. So she picked me up, and then it said, "Oh, you're going downtown?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Okay." She starts driving, and then we're chatting. And so I threw out a couple of these industry lingo type terms. She didn't catch on. She didn't catch it. So as I'm talking to her, she is basically, she says, "No, that's not what I want to do." And then she reiterates what she wants to do. I'm like, "Okay, so what you want to be is," and then I said the name of that title, and she said, "No." And she said, "What I want to do is this." And so I said, "Ah." And I threw out yet another industry term. And at that point, she goes, "No." And then at that point, since she had music on, and if you could imagine a speaker right there that was actually blown out and playing the music and just, like this, she was like, she was being polite about it, but I could tell she was a little frustrated. She says, "No." And then decided after this third time that she would just be like, "Oh, well, what do you know? There's a song on the radio I want to sing to." She said, "No," pause for a moment, and then I started to hear her sing into the song. Thinking, okay, she obviously is done talking to me. And I'm like, I'm not going to go ahead and instigate here or start up a conversation. I'm just going to stay quiet and see if she ever asks me again or says anything again. And for the next 50 minutes in the car, she said not a word until she is at the light in front of the entrance that goes into the main, has the big front gate, and it has the name of the studio and the where the stages are and stuff. And she sees it, and she knows that if she goes in that gate, she's going to be going through security in about 30 seconds. And she's like, "My directions have me going in there." I'm like, "Yep." And she said, we're going into the studio?" I'm like, "Yep." Well, and then all of a sudden she wanted to be chatty again. All of a sudden she had all the questions. She wanted to suddenly be loud and talkative. And she said, and she started asking me a question, and instantly at this point, I'm like, "You know what, lady, you had your opportunity. If you were smart, you would have recognized that I was using lingo in the industry that you're interested in. And if you would have caught on to that, you would have realized that I might be someone that, if I understand the lingo, maybe I might be someone to talk to." I gave her 3 shots by telling her 3 different titles. She didn't recognize any of them. She didn't recognize the lingo, or if she did, it went right over her head. And for whatever reason, she ignored it. So now that we're seconds away from security, she decides she's going to start asking me questions. And I'm just like, yeah, what you're going to want to do, hold on a second. What you're going to want to do is go around here. And I kind of kind of ignored her and shut up. "You're going to want to go around here, and then it's going to take you toward the security gate." And she's like, "Okay. Well," and then she starts asking me another question. I'm like, "Yeah, and once we get around here, just so you know, there's going to be a few gates here. I'll tell you which one to go through." "Okay, but," and she starts asking me another question. And I'm like, "Okay, the gate you're going to want to go into is the second one." Oh, okay. And then I'm like, there's a little thing over there. The security will probably stop us, but try taking my badge here, and putting it on the thing, and see if they'll let you in. But they have security guards on each gate. We'll see if they let you in. And as soon as we got up there, she tried it, and they were like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, hold on a second. An Uber or Lyft? We can't have someone come in there. You're gonna have to pull to the side here. You're the employee." I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, "All right, you can come in." Okay. So I took the badge back, and I was like, "Well, thanks for the ride." And she was just like, "Okay, thank you." But I could tell she was instantly full of regret for having completely ignored the guy that was in the back seat for the past 50 minutes that she could have asked questions to, and would have openly been happy to give her advice and even some recommendations of what she could probably be doing if she wanted to do what she wanted to do. It's one of those things where don't ever just assume anything about anybody. Sometimes an older person you may run into in your life is someone that you might say, what can they possibly know? It could be someone that's been doing what you want to do for 50 years. They could have contacts. They could be telling you some things that you need to know. They could be, if nothing else, they could be telling you some stories that help you learn. Elders are great that way. And I'm not simply saying, "Oh, I'm this elder person, you should listen to me." I'm not saying that. But you never know who you're going to talk to next. A teenager could be someone's child. And so it's one of those things where you might want to keep that in mind also, because the world is full of contacts. Anyway, it is now time. Yes, do your homework. That's a good way of putting it. It is now time for me to go, because I can tell that I now need to go and retrieve my daughter. But thank you for joining me, and I will hopefully see you for many more years to come on Sound Speeds. Take care. Have a great Saturday. Bye-bye.